Welcome to another inspiring podcast from C3 New Hope. For more information about our church and its locations, please visit our website at c3newhope.com.au.
Good morning, everybody. I've been glad I've got the pulpit because I've got a nice thing to perch on. I love to hear people tell me their stories and to tell me their testimonies and how God's done amazing things in their lives and how they came to the Lord. And suddenly here I am. I'm going to tell you my story. I was born 89 years ago, and I was born in England, and most of my childhood was during the war and the Blitz. I spent a lot of time down air raid shelters all night, and then we'd come up in the morning wondering if our house would still be standing. And so it was a very unusual childhood, but it's amazing because when you live that way, you just think that's normal. But I remember I always went to Sunday school, and one day the Sunday school teacher took us to camp. Now all you guys are going to camp soon. That's going to be wonderful. And at the camp, the man said, now you're all 12, and you are now reaching the crossroads of your life. And you have a choice. Jesus is now at the crossroads. And you have a choice. You can go up this lovely broad way that has parties and fun, or you can go this difficult way. But one ends in hell, and the other ends in heaven. So we all went back to our dormitories, and I said to the other girls, I can't sleep. I don't want to go to hell. And he'd drawn all these fires on that road. And so we went and got Miss Jones. And Miss Jones, bless her heart, had been trying to teach us about Jesus for about 6 years. And we'd had fun and laughed and not taken that much notice. But she came in and she prayed that prayer with us. And she said to me, now, Brenda, you have to remember you are a Christian. And she didn't realize how crucial that phrase was going to be, because very soon after that, we migrated to Australia. Well, I was 14 then, with my mum and dad and the 4 of us kids. And I didn't do anything different. Christ hasn't made any change in my life. I was just me. But in the migrant camp, I heard music. So I said to all the kids we were praying with, what's the music? And they said, that's Sunday school. Let's run away. And then click. I like Sunday school. Let's go. So I took them all to Sunday school. And I said to the girl playing the piano accordion, her name was June, she was 19, excuse me, miss, but I am a Christian. And as I said that, she said, that is wonderful. I will teach you about him. And she took me to a young people's camp when I was 16. And there I just fell in love with Jesus. He was amazing. And I also met my husband. Ooh. So all you... I was 16, he was 19. I'm encouraging, I love to send our young people to camp because their lives are going to be changed. It's wonderful, just the way my life was changed. He's a great God. Hang on, where am I up to? I've lived through 2 revivals, the 70s. We had amazing things happening in all the churches in the 70s and also in the 90s when I came here to this amazing house of God. And I wrote down about 40 miracles that I can remember from those times. And so I thought I'd choose 2 miracles to tell you today and to be encouraged that we got this amazing God that we can walk with and talk with. We can hold his hand. We can never be alone. We can never have a problem because you can pass it over to him. This amazing God. Anyway, my first miracle was I worked for a cooking school and the celebrity star of the cooking school for 14 years. And she was a Jew. After 14 years, she gave her heart to the Lord. And that was wonderful because she brought hundreds and hundreds to the Lord. But she rang me up one day soon after she was converted, and she said to me, "Brenda, my mother's just arrived from London and she's got cancer. They've opened her up and she was riddled with cancer and they've just closed her up and sent her to me, and she only has a week or so to live. I'm bringing her over for prayer." Click. And I went, wow. So I slid to the lino floor and I said, "God, I can't do this. This is just too much. I cannot do this." And I know he was smiling, and I know what he was saying back to me. He was saying, "You don't have to do it. I do it." And I say, "Yeah, I know, Lord, but..." And he said, "Brenda, can you not do anything?" So she came. We sat her in a chair. She was a Jew, so I had to tell her to relax and allow God to touch her body. And then she sat there in the chair. And I sat behind her on a stool and did nothing for 10 minutes. It was very hard. I didn't pray. I didn't do anything. Then I went round to the front of her and sat on the coffee table in front of her. And I said, "What did God do?" And she said, "He touched me." And she cried. I said, "Oh, that's wonderful. What would you like God to do?" And she said, "Oh, I've got this terrible scar and it's seeping pus and blood everywhere. I have to keep changing my clothes and changing the sheets." I said, "Well, ask him." And she said, "I'd love an appetite, haven't eaten for months." And I said, "Ask him." And just then, her daughter came to pick her up and take her home. And on the way home, they stopped for milk at the local shop. And she said, "Darling, if you're going in the shop, would you get me a chocolate?" She said, "I'm feeling very hungry." And she lived for many years. Isn't that amazing? So God took me, a woman with no confidence, and showed me his great glory and all the wonderful things God can do. Can you see why I love him? He's an amazing God. And the next one I was going to tell you was about my family. This one, I was right in the middle of this one. This one, my family had a big problem, and it was beginning to dominate our lives. My husband had migraine. He would go grey, vomit everywhere, and then he would sleep for 3 hours. And we thought, this is terrible. And we prayed, and we prayed. Nothing happened. It was happening monthly. Then it was happening weekly. And of course, if it happened while he was in the boardroom, or if it happened while he was even on the train, it'd be a terrible thing. So it was getting worse. So we were in a car with the children in the back, and they were older children in the back seat, and we were in the front, and we ran into this storm that was so violent you couldn't hear yourself think. And if you looked out the window, you couldn't see anything. So you didn't know if you were going to run into the car in front any minute, or the car behind was going to run into you, and you couldn't get off the road. And suddenly this fear and this panic took over me because we were isolated there. And when I looked over at Adrian, he was turning grey. He was about to vomit all over the steering wheel. So fear, panic, and anger filled me all at once. I remember looking up to the roof of that car and saying, "Satan, you get out of here. I am not having the spirit of migraine. And all the time I was shaking like a leaf. Because fear is a terrible thing. But when you declare and make declarations, God hears. God hears. And all the resources of heaven are behind you. And so I screamed. And just then, Adrian shook me and said, "It's gone." And we never saw it again. In my whole life, read you what I've got here. In my whole life, he's never let me down. Through all the disasters of my life, the many times I've failed him, and you grow in your failures. I love the failures because you can say to God, "What can I learn here, God? I've done this before, I've done it again. Teach me what I can learn here." And I thought of Pastor's story about the man coming up to pick up the sofa and how he was able to share Jesus with him. I thought, yeah, we've got to be bold. I'm really into boldness, only because I'm older. I'd love to have had a bit more boldness when I was a kid. So somebody said here, they're doing life with Jesus, and that's what it's all about. And it's true what the Bible says. He's the God of the impossible. And he wants you on his team. He wants us on his team. And he wants to show us amazing things that can be done here, like the Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. Yeah, so he's an amazing God. So let's get hungry for more of him. Yeah. Put your hand up if you want to get hungry. This is God's place. I have seen miracles on this altar, and God will do it again and again and again.
We hope you've been encouraged by this message. For more information about C3 New Hope and its locations, please visit our website at c3newhope.com.au.